Well, we've got some catching up to do. Back in 2016, I first set foot in Thailand. And honestly, I think I fell in love right away. Anybody that's visited before knows that there's just something magical about this corner of the world, a place that you can't really describe in words. It was the first country I'd been to outside of the Western world, and it really opened my eyes to a region that I've just been obsessed with ever since. That first trip was just a taster of what the kingdom had to offer, but the second time dug a lot deeper. In 2018, me and my girlfriend Emma quit our jobs to travel around Asia, and every couple of months we ended up back in Thailand. Obviously, we travelled all around the country, but my favourite times during that year were the longer stints we spent in Bangkok, in Chiang Mai, and when we knew our trip was coming to an end, the weeks we spent on Koh Phangan, just before we packed up our bags and headed back to the UK. Thailand really became a home from home for us back then, and I think a part of me never fully left. Because back in the UK, it took me a very long time to get over the travel blues. And then 2020 happened, which was a write-off for most people. We were all grounded by lockdowns, and my new freelance career faltered before it really started. I did what I could and I tried to get by, but I won't lie, at times during that year, I thought we'd never get out of the country again, let alone back to where we wanted to be. And in the meantime, I was constantly looking for different ways to remind myself of a better time, a better place, even in the smallest ways. I honestly think this is the best way that you can travel from home. So much about travel is experiencing new cultures, and such a huge part of that is the food. It's the smells, the flavours that just take you back to certain places. It's taking me back to Thailand straight away. Good. But even if we did want to book a flight back then, it probably wasn't a good idea. Lockdowns and closed borders brought restrictions that would have been very tricky and expensive to navigate, and that was fine by me, because I really needed to get my own life in order first. And towards the end of 2020, things started to click, and a plan started to form. A plan that would eventually get us back to the pure shores of Southeast Asia. But there was just one problem. The whole of the UK was still in a state of national lockdown. Bit quiet today. Today I'm working up in London for the first time since before the first lockdown, so way back in March last year. And as you can see, it's pretty quiet and strange, so it'll be interesting to see what the city's like. It's also my first time on a train since about 6 months ago, so let's do it. 2020 was a terrible year for me financially, but by this point, some contacts had started to pay off and I was back into some regular freelance work. And in that respect, getting back into commuting and the daily grind really helped get some structure back into my life. And it finally felt like I was moving forwards again. I've come to an area called Hackney Wick, which is in the east of London. And it's a very cool place, lots of street art and hipster cafes. But there's also some really beautiful canals that look right out to the Olympic Park. I've come here to work on a really cool project that's been in the works since way back last year, but it all got delayed because of COVID, so excited to finally get started again. And the next few months went by very, very fast. But we always kept one eye on what was happening further east. Here we go. Things are starting to happen. Thailand looking to open partially on 1st of July to vaccinated tourists only. It sounds like they're opening up Phuket only to begin with, and then gradually they'll be opening up the rest of the country. I was actually talking to Emma just this morning about how interesting it's going to be if you get to Thailand soon and now. There's so many places that we've always avoided a little bit, you know, places like Phuket and the PP Islands. We've always avoided because you always assume that they're just going to be way too overcrowded, way too busy. But now, I mean, for the next year, maybe even a bit longer, it's going to look very different in those places. It's going to be like Thailand was quite a long time ago. So if you can get there soon, it's a great time to see Thailand. In our minds, we roughly had the goal of being back on a flight to Thailand by January 2022. But obviously, we knew we had to be flexible because, as we were about to find out, things were changing very, very quickly.
Thailand is considering a hard lockdown as COVID-19 infections skyrocket.
Despite surviving a long stretch of the pandemic relatively unscathed, Thailand was hit badly by the new variants, leading to rising infection rates, lockdowns, and casting many doubts over the reopening of tourism. At that point, our dreams started to feel very far away. So the best we could do to satisfy our cravings was to look for something a little closer to home. It's currently August 2021, and getting to Thailand from the UK is still looking a little bit tricky. So luckily, this weekend, Thailand has come to us. We're going to be heading down to Preston Park in Brighton, which is on the south coast of England, to check out the Magic of Thailand festival. And we're just going to spend the day checking out all of the shops and stalls. We're going to watch all of the entertainment and hopefully taste some delicious Thai food. And I'm on a personal mission to find a real authentic Pad Krapao Moo. The Magic of Thailand festival was founded in 2012, and its touring selection of shows, shops and snacks travels to 10 different destinations around the country every single year. On the whole, there aren't that many Thai people living in the UK, but millions of Brits head over to the kingdom for tourism each year. And judging by the crowds in Brighton that day, it wasn't just us who'd been missing the land of smiles. We watched some of the shows and the Muay Thai demonstrations, but then it was time to check out the main event in my eyes, which was all of the amazing Thai food and drinks.
That is sweeter than I remember.
Well, that was absolutely brilliant. The sun was out, the atmosphere was great, and there was just something really nice about being in a little time capsule almost. There's so many things we recognised from being back in Thailand, you know, even down to the things that were being sold in the little market stalls. You know, you had your elephant pants and your tie-dye t-shirts, all those things, and it just really took me back. And not to mention all the smells from the cooking, which were absolutely delicious. And yes, I did find my Pad Krapao, and it was okay. It was all right. It is the best Pad Krapao I've had in this country. I've been to a few Thai restaurants, and they never seem to do the minced pork version, so I did find that, but they did forget my fried egg on the top, which is a little bit disappointing, but it was still pretty tasty. And yeah, I'm so glad we went. It was quite clear that everybody there had a connection to Thailand, whether they were Thai themselves, they have a Thai family, or they just miss going to Thailand like us. So yeah, highly recommend the Magic of Thailand festival. It happens every year and it travels all over the country. So if you've got an affinity with Thailand or you're interested in Thai culture, definitely check it out. Only £4 for a ticket. I mean, you can't go wrong with that, can you? That day, me and Emma made ourselves a promise that come the end of the month, we would once again review the situation in Thailand and make a final decision about our January goal. And soon enough, rumours started to swell. On the 1st of November, Thailand announced that it would be opening to vaccinated tourists from a list of approved countries, and there would be no turning back. So the next couple of days looked a bit like this. Researching, planning, and making sure we had everything in place to start booking some flights. It felt surreal and definitely a bit insane to finally click on those buttons, but to get to that moment, the whole of this journey seemed worth it. Slow internet is killing me. Oh! Oh my god. Oh.
Yeah!
Woo! Well, this suddenly feels very real.
What have we done?
So next time, we fly. And this was one of the most surreal and stressful flying experiences I've ever had in my life.